Hey everybody, I went to the interview at VCU School of Dental Medicine in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm going to tell you everything about it, so keep on watching. So the interview in Virginia was a 2-day event. I arrived a day before the interview, which was a Sunday, and I was just curious about the city itself because I've never been to Virginia and I've never been to Richmond. So I was just walking around and taking in what the city has to offer, but I was a little disappointed, to be honest. There's definitely not much going on. It is for sure a big city, but with a small town vibe. So I feel like everything revolves around VCU. And I've also heard that it's quite a benefit that there's not much going on because you really will have to focus on studying and be focused on dental school, which that's the way it's supposed to be. There's not much distraction. So as I said, the interview is a 2-day event. The first day is the bench exam, where you have to prepare some cavities in a crown prep, which I will discuss in detail here in a second. The second day, you will have to present a PowerPoint presentation and you will get a tour of the school. As I said, I arrived a day before my interview. I rented an Airbnb. It was pretty close to dental school. I just checked out where the dental school is exactly a day before, so I don't have to worry the next day. It was walking distance, so I basically walked the day of my exam, which just helped me to clear my mind, I guess. I was very nervous. I didn't really know what to expect. So I got there around 8 a.m. in the morning on Monday, the day of the exam, and I got there, I think, like 25 minutes early, and there were already a couple of students there. They just wanted us to sign into a list, and we got like a little badge, and then they led us into a lecture room. So we had to wait in this lecture room for quite a while, I think for like 30 minutes or so, and then some professors came in and they introduced themselves. Before that, we obviously were able to talk to each other, and we just exchanged some information, and it was really great to get to know a lot of other international dentists. After they were done introducing themselves, we were led into the clinical rooms where our bench test was taking place. And the good thing is that a week before our bench exam, they actually sent us an email with a picture of our desk and the whole setup, with obviously the mannequin and the instruments that we receive, as well as the materials that we will be able to use. We are not allowed to bring any of our own materials or instruments, just so you know. The only thing you're allowed to bring is your loupes. That was good because we could obviously figure out what instruments we will be able to use, what burrs we will have, but also the materials. Me, for example, I haven't worked with amalgam that much, so it was good to see that they used the amalgam capsules. So I was able to research the whole amalgam process, just meaning how to mix the amalgam properly in the amalgamator, that thing. Anyway, so another thing that was super helpful is they sent us a list of preparations that we have to do a week in advance. And in total, we had 5 tasks. The first thing that we had to do was a composite restoration on a tooth that was already prepared. It was a class 4 on tooth number 8, and it was a mesio-incisal facial lingual preparation, obviously class 4, and you obviously got the composite and the composite instruments, as well as the curing light and some polishing strips for that as well. All of that was provided. The good thing is that it provided you with burrs for finishing a composite restoration, so definitely use those. One thing that's very important before you even start your bench exam is look at all the materials that you got. Because me, for example, I had 2 burr blocks on my desk, but they were the same type. I didn't look at them before I started, and it turned out that I didn't have a burr block for crown preparations. As soon as I realized I don't have the right burrs, I obviously had to ask for a replacement, and you know, that just takes away from your time, and you really want to avoid that. You really want to have every second for your preparations. You also have to look at the models and the teeth that they provide you with. You get an upper and lower arch, which you have to insert into the mannequin. Make sure that there's no scratches on adjacent teeth, that the gums are intact. Otherwise, it will count as you injured an adjacent tooth or the gingiva. And injuring an adjacent tooth means you'll fail the exam, which obviously we want to prevent. So definitely take a look at all the teeth that you receive. Very interesting about the teeth itself. I don't know what type of dental model they used, but the teeth were very soft. So the diamond burrs were cutting through it like through butter. They were so soft. So make sure you are very gentle and you go slow. Otherwise you will over reduce or, just mess up your preparation. The second restoration that we had to prepare was an amalgam restoration on tooth number 3. The cavity was already prepared. It was a mesio-occlusal cavity, and we just had to mix up the amalgam ourselves and condense it and restore the tooth with a Teffelmeyer. We got a Teffelmeyer matrix, so we could use that. And yeah, just try your best. I haven't done amalgam restorations in forever. I think I only did it in the first years of dental school, but we never used it on patients or anything, so I definitely was struggling with this task since I just haven't used amalgam in forever, and not often, maybe like a couple of times. So that was quite interesting. I probably messed up this restoration quite a bit, but they told us that we shouldn't worry too much about this amalgam restoration, since I feel like every student there was kind of complaining about it. And yeah, it wasn't the best task, to be honest. The next task was to do a class 2 preparation on tooth number 19, and it was a mesio-occlusal distal cavity, so it was quite a big cavity to prepare. The fourth task was to do another class 2 on tooth number 5, and this was only a mesio-occlusal cavity. And the last task was to do a crown prep. It was supposed to be a zirconia crown on tooth number 30, and we also had to make a temporary crown. So don't forget to take a putty impression before you reduce the tooth, obviously, so that your temporary crown looks perfect. Yeah, so there was quite a bit to prepare. It was hectic, let me tell you. And we had almost all day for it. We started at 9 and we worked till about noon. Then we had an hour lunch, and from 1 till 4 we were allowed to finish whatever we haven't finished so far. It's doable in that time, but you still gotta work quickly. At the end, they realized that most of the students weren't done with their preparations yet, so they gave us like another 20 minutes and then like another 10 minutes. So in all, we had like extra 30 minutes to finish all of it. And then you basically just take out the models of the mannequin, put them in the designated box, which is your box with your name on it, and give this to the professor, and the professors will examine that and determine if you passed or not. I was very nervous, but they made us feel very comfortable. They played some music, and there were students walking around the whole time. If we had any questions, we could ask them. And me, for example, I had to exchange my burr block, but also I had an enamel hatchet which wasn't sharp at all. So I asked one of the students if they could supply me with a sharper one, and they did, which was awesome. And those students that were walking around, they are just international students that are currently attending VCU. So it was interesting to interact with them as well. The professors were walking around as well, taking a look how we work. They obviously tried to pay attention of how we're sitting. So make sure your ergonomics are good, make sure you sit straight and you wear your loops, just so that you look as professional as possible. Yeah, that was basically day 1. Afterwards, I was actually planning on preparing for day 2, but I was so tired after this whole day of prepping, I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna rest and then I'm gonna go to bed and I'm just gonna go through it. Just gotta get the second day done and then I'm good. Then I can go home, basically. It was very nerve-wracking for me, just because I didn't know what to expect. So the second day was a little different. We had to prepare some PowerPoint presentations in advance, and we had to send it in a week before the exam. It basically should be a presentation about yourself, introducing yourself, and talking about your experience, your hobbies, stuff like that. And it should be only 5 minutes. So I was kind of expecting to present that in front of the professors, but it ended up to be a presentation in front of everybody. So we were all sitting in a lecture hall, and one by one we're asked to step in front of everyone and present ourselves. It was definitely super interesting to hear about other students and about other people's experience. And there were a lot of students that had masters in their home country or even masters here in the US. There were a couple of people that had dental public health master here in the US, and there were some students that were dental hygienists here. And yeah, it was super competitive, just to tell you, because we were about 50 applicants, and they only accept 8, 9, or 10 students. It depends how many they pick. But it is super competitive. If you messed up just teeny tiny bit in your bench exam, then you don't really get a chance that second day. Like, it doesn't really matter how good your presentation was or how well you present yourself, but the bench exam was definitely more important to them. So make sure your preparations are on point. It was interesting to see what everyone was going through and to see all the experiences. Also, gives you some inspiration of what you could do next if you don't get accepted that year. So just a little tip for your presentation: make it very personable. So don't only talk about dentistry and what you have done so far or your schooling, but talk about your hobbies, what you love to do. Make them remember you by just what makes you special. Some people were sharing pictures of some foods that they like to eat or some places that they have traveled to, and it's just very interesting for the audience. Also include a lot of personal pictures and just make them remember you. And during the presentations, they weren't asking you anything. So it wasn't like a proper interview. You literally just presented yourself and that's it, and then you sat down, which is important to know, I believe, because I was kind of expecting to have more of an interactive interview, but that wasn't the case. So we started around 8 a.m. We held the presentations until noon. Then we had a lunch. Just by the way, they were feeding us really well. They had really nice lunches for us, and that second day they also had a cute little breakfast arranged for us. So that was awesome. After lunch, we went back into the lecture hall and we took a little test. So everyone got a test, which I think had 2 pages, and they showed us an x-ray on the screen of the lower molars and premolars, and we basically had to describe what we see, but also how we would treat it. And then we had a bunch of questions about cavity preparations. Class 2, we had to describe all the steps that we would do to have a perfect class 2, but also the materials that we would use, and just step by step how you prepare a perfect class 2, all the angles and all the specific parts of a cavity. And then the next big part was to describe a perfect zirconia crown preparation and all the materials that you would use also for a temporary crown and stuff like that. So basically it was a written test about the bench exam, kinda, because that's what we had to prepare. The good thing is, for the bench exam, they actually send us a list of all the teeth that we have to prepare and all the preparations, obviously, that we have to do. But they also had descriptions of how the cavity should look like or how the preparation should look like. So if you have read that before, you could ace that written test with no problem. After we were done with that written part, the students that are currently attending VCU gave us a tour of the school. They showed us all the clinical rooms as well as the clinic, and there were quite a bit of patients, which was a really good sign. They are also very proud about their CAD/CAM system there. So once you're in the clinic, you'll be able to scan your patients after a crown prep, and you might be even able to cement that crown the same day. And they were quite proud of that, and they were explaining us in detail how that CAD/CAM system is working and stuff like that. And then at the end, I was quite surprised because we got to talk to those students for a bit longer, and we just found out that graduating students that year graduated with about 500,000 in student debt. And I'm like, oh wow, $500,000 in student debt, that's quite something. But yeah, I guess that's what student loans are for. Yeah, it was still quite a shocker, I must say. $500,000 is so much money, and I'm like, that will take a while to pay off. But yeah, that's that. That was the interview at VCU, and it was a super experience. I really didn't know what to expect, but now I know better for future bench exams, and it was great to get to know other students, and you know, it gave me a lot of inspiration what I could do next to increase my chances to get accepted somewhere. And yeah, I hope this video helps you guys. I wish you the best of luck. Get ready, prepare yourself well for the bench exam, prep as many teeth as you can just to have perfect hand skills, and I'm sure this way you will get accepted very soon. So if you like that video, definitely like and subscribe. I will update more videos in the future and share my journey with you guys. So I'll see you next time. Bye.